Before I did this research project, I was under the impression that Manayunk was a vibrant and bustling community. The general consensus among my friends was that Manayunk was a hip place with good bars, shopping, and dining. My grandmother liked the art scene, and my friends and I had long planned a trip up to Manayunk for cheesesteaks and a stop at the brewery. The beginning stages of my research enforced this opinion. Articles in the Inquirer tout Manayunk's continued economic revitalization, and Manayunk.com, the website for the Manayunk Development Corporation, boasts about Main Street shopping and community events like the Red Bull Soapbox Race and the Pro Cycling Tour's Philadelphia International Championship, both of which draw hundreds of visitors to the neighborhood. However, as I explored the economic situation in Manayunk more closely, I found that public perception doesn't match the reality that small business owners are facing. Though Manayunk experienced strong economic revitalization during the 80s and 90s, the development wasn't sustainable, and today Main Street is struggling. To understand Manayunk's recent economic transformations, it's important to understand the history of the area. Manayunk was one of Philadelphia's oldest and strongest industrial neighborhoods. The running water necessary for early industrialization was present in both the Schuylkill and Wissahickon Creek, making Manayunk a cradle for the textile industry in Philadelphia. On the side of this building, you can see the remnants of industrial Manayunk in the company mural. Buildings throughout Manayunk still bear the signs of industrial use, and many of the buildings were clearly originally meant for manufacturing. Visiting, I saw many old warehouses reappropriated for more modern uses, like office space and bars. Much of this industry relied on the canal, which still exists, for transportation. Today, the canal is one of the scenic features of Manayunk, with the towpath offering quiet city recreation to residents and visitors. When industry left Philadelphia, Manayunk was left in much the same situation as the rest of the city, economically decimated and practically abandoned. In her doctoral thesis, Mary Jo Rendon called Manayunk a quiet, almost neglected neighborhood. But that situation changed in 1970 when the community began pushing for the revitalization of Manayunk. Manayunk was chosen as a site for revitalization because of its location. Halfway between the main line and Center City, Manayunk lies right along the Schuylkill Expressway, making it accessible to visitors from the suburbs as well as the city. The government pumped money into the area through development grants, historical preservation monies, and tax credits. Manayunk was designated as a historical district in 1973 for purely economic development reasons. The government further supported Manayunk's revitalization by undertaking infrastructure projects, like sidewalk renewal and parking lot construction. According to Geraldine Fisher, these monies were used in part to encourage the gentrification that was slowly taking place in Manayunk and favor the growing middle-class population in the area. In addition to government money, several investors were deeply committed to the area, specifically Dan Nedison. With family connections to the area, Nedison chose to invest heavily in Manayunk. According to Fisher's research, when her thesis was published in 2006, Nedison owned 50 buildings in the area and was the largest property owner in Manayunk. These diverse redevelopment efforts were concentrated entirely in the businesses along Main Street. The revitalization efforts were largely successful, and Manayunk became an economically vibrant community that gentrified quickly. Rents, especially on Main Street, increased exponentially, and Main Street was the center of this economic expansion with a growing retail and restaurant scene. Rendon's work, written in the midst of this boom, is a hopeful testament to the strength of Manayunk's economy. She writes about a vibrant community that attracts outsiders to come and spend their money on Main Street. However, this economic strength didn't last. Gentrification brought a crowd of young professionals during the 80s, but they were soon replaced by a younger, more transient crowd. This map shows the prevalence of 18 to 34-year-olds in Manayunk. The darker the shade, the higher the percentage of 18 to 34-year-olds in the area. In the youngest area of Manayunk, along North Main Street, half the population is between 18 and 34. Many of the current residents in Manayunk are either college students or recent grads from schools like Philadelphia University, LaSalle, St. Joe's, and Villanova. Additionally, the college student population tends to be extremely transient. As a result, they don't buy durable goods like furniture and art, both of which used to be staples of the Main Street economy. This picture shows a mural on the side of the Proper Brothers Furniture Store, one of the few remaining furniture stores in Manayunk. The transiency of this population can be seen in this map, which shows us the concentration of residential rental properties in Manayunk around Main Street. About 90% of the population is renting, compared to only 41% in Philadelphia as a whole. According to locals, this transformation had serious implications for Main Street economy. College students don't have much disposable income. Additionally, the advent of shopping districts along the main line and the growing shopping scene in Center City meant that fewer and fewer people visited Manayunk for shopping. With the younger crowd spending most of their money on food and alcohol, the retail scene has slowly deteriorated and been replaced by a growing bar and restaurant scene. Local residents seem to dislike this change. I heard complaints about petty crime resulting from drunken debauchery, but mostly the business owners I spoke to were disappointed that the community surrounding them was uninterested in supporting business other than the bar scene. This map shows the concentration of food industry jobs in Manayunk. Almost 14% of the jobs in Manayunk are in the food industry, compared to only about 6% in the rest of Philadelphia. This demographic problem has led to the failure of many businesses, especially retail businesses along Main Street. As I walked through Manayunk, I saw a frightening number of empty storefronts. The failing businesses aren't being replaced by new development. While the number of store closures is certainly impacted by the recession, the sheer number of store closures is a testament to the weakening state of the economy along Main Street. Jane Lipton, the new director of the Manayunk Development Corporation, told the Inquirer that Manayunk is preparing to enter a new revitalization. But that statement seems laughable when you walk past the 4 lease signs and empty display windows. The business owners I spoke to had deep concern for the deteriorating economy and growing bar scene. I got to experience Manayunk's bar culture firsthand. My visit coincided with the annual Running of the Santas, a citywide pub crawl that starts in Manayunk. People dressed in holiday costumes waited for the train with me, flagrantly flaunting Philly's open container law at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Bars are becoming the most powerful part of the Manayunk economy, and longtime residents are suffering because of it. But perhaps the most telling sign of Manayunk's economic decline can be seen in a statement I made at the beginning of this video. I mentioned that my friends and I had been meaning to visit Manayunk for some time, but we've never actually made the trek. The district that used to draw visitors from all over the metropolitan area no longer brings in the visitors that it needs to sustain its economy.